which we weren't able to do when you first came to visit with us. I think that ATF has really taken this opportunity, or taking this opportunity to really try and demonstrate some of the changes that we've made both organizationally and culturally. We are a data-driven and intelligence-led operation nowadays that really does focus. We're able to take a laser focus on our mission when we start talking about identifying firearms traffickers and trigger pullers and violent crimes. So we really want to just take this opportunity to provide you with a briefing today that will allow you to see some of the tools and techniques that we have developed that will help you to understand a little bit better how we're carrying out our mission in a 21st century environment. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Forward to it myself. So I'll take a few moments to address the folks on camera who are our United States attorneys and the ATF SACs in the strike force cities. As you well know, ATF is at the front lines of our efforts to battle gun violence, and it's only appropriate that a frontline agency should have a confirmed director, and so we are very hopeful that the Senate will soon act on Mr. Chipman's nomination so that the ATF will have a confirmed director in place for this very important operation. The gun violence tragedy now facing the country and facing it over many years, needless to say, affects our communities and their security and safety, but it also affects the community of law enforcement officers. And everyone around this table knows what happened in Chicago with 2 ATF officers being shot and a task force officer being shot. And so this strikes not only at the communities we serve, but at our own community of law enforcement. Today we're taking the opportunity to launch the 5 strike forces, which will battle illegal gun trafficking networks. This set of strike forces is just one part of our comprehensive anti-violent crime initiative, which we began in May. That initiative has 3 main foci. One is targeted enforcement. A second is building community trust, without which our law enforcement efforts will not succeed. And the third is providing funds for communities' anti-violent crime, particularly anti-gun prevention and violence intervention. We plan and have already begun strengthening our Project Safe Neighborhoods program in each of the districts. These are joint efforts of the U.S. Attorney's offices, of the ATF, of the FBI, of the DEA, and the Marshal Services, all of the Justice Department, law enforcement agencies and authorities and resources. And in addition, we have greatly increased the grant programs that we have available to local communities and to local police departments. I know that to the U.S. attorneys in the audience and to the ATF SACs, you are going to bear the burden, and already are bearing the burden, of the struggle against violent crime in our communities. I know very well that you are professionals, and I know that you're up to this task, and I am exceedingly grateful for all the efforts that you have put in every day and all the efforts that you will be putting in over this particularly difficult summer. And I'm now going to turn this over to the deputy, who will speak in more detail about our task force operations.
Thank you very much. It's terrific to be here with all of you and to be with our colleagues on the screen. I also take note of your teammates from state and local law enforcement, obviously critical to this joint effort, and that's exemplified every day in the task force work that you do, and that I know is so critical to all of the DOJ law enforcement components work, including the ATF work. So look, the strike forces that we are launching today and that are going to be led and coordinated by the U.S. attorneys on the screen here, the work you're going to do today, tomorrow, and into the future is a really critical element of our overall violent crime reduction effort that the Attorney General just spoke to. We all know that our job is to go after those who pull the trigger and end up critically injuring and in some cases murdering innocent people. But our job is also, of course, to go after the sources of those guns, the corridors that they travel in, and the networks that feed those guns to the places where they are doing the most violent crime. And that's what this series of strike force efforts is really all about. And the ATF crime gun intelligence that you bring to that effort is so, so critical to connecting the dots, linking those crime guns to crimes in other states, and allowing us to build out, allowing you all to build out those networks and identify those who are providing the sources of those guns. From the ballistics evidence that you analyze from multiple crime scenes, to the NIBIN and E-Trace efforts that you do every day, to the sharing of information and intelligence critically across jurisdictions. All of that crime gun intelligence is the critical feeder to these efforts, and that's really where it all starts, in sharing that information with our state and local counterparts and partners is really the fuel for this whole effort. And we know you've already done tremendous work, hundreds of thousands of traces and analyses every day that ATF does, is what's allowed us to identify already the corridors and identify these cities as critical places to do cross-jurisdictional investigations. And your work in those cities and working across those jurisdictions is what is going to be key to this effort. So these strike forces are a top priority for the Attorney General and for me. This is a long-term effort. This is not a short-term infusion of resources. This is a long-term, coordinated, multi-jurisdictional, cross-jurisdictional effort. And that's the critical piece that we all can do coming together, because of course we can't do anything without our partners across the federal enterprise and of course with state and local law enforcement. So I just want to thank you all for your efforts. We've got no more important mission in this department than keeping our communities safe, and your work on these strike forces is a critical part of it. And so I'm looking forward to hearing from the U.S. attorneys and our partners in hearing how these strike forces will be launched.
I think Chicago was first, so I'll get started.